be the man I used to be. Fascinating rhythm, won't you stop picking on me?
I'm thrilled to be sitting across from one of my favorite creative geniuses today. He's a winner of 9 Tony Awards for his work as an actor, director, and choreographer of some of my favorite shows. New York theater goers are lucky because from February 4th through the 8th, he's appearing at Lady Be Good as part of the City Center Encores series. Hello, Mr. Tommy Tune.
Hello.
I'm so happy you're here.
I just came from rehearsal. It's going to be great.
Just came from rehearsal.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, the rehearsals of these things is like...
No time.
Yeah.
In no time, there is no time, and we're on.
How is that for you?
Well, it takes me back to when I first started in this business, which was summer stock, which we really don't have anymore.
Right.
But you would do a season of 10 shows in 11 weeks.
Right.
So the first week, you would work on the first show.
Right.
It goes on at night, and you start rehearsal on the second show by day. So the rest of the season was rehearsing a new show by day and doing the show at night.
Try not to say your new lines in the old show. At the
Yeah,
night.
and try not to duplicate the choreography. Oh, God. I don't know how we did it, but we did it. So that takes me back to that.
And look at you, a man of your stature and experience doing summer stock again.
But yes, but that's where I learned it all, so it's rejuvenated me. It's just great. We have a wonderful cast, and they're so young. And I say, you kids, you didn't get in on summer stock, but you really have, because you're doing encores.
Right. This is a musical from the 20s, and I know that the Astaire, the Astaire brother and sister,
Fred and Adele,
Adele
was written
did it originally.
Them. Yeah, and it was George and Ira Gershwin's first musical. They did 14 musicals. This was the first one that they did.
Wow.
George had just written The Rhapsody in Blue, which was a puzzlement to all the critics. They did, is it symphony, is it classic, is it jazz, what is it?
Yeah.
And so he just whipped back into this, and then he started sneaking little pieces of his jazz leanings into the score, and you can hear them. So historically, musically, it's interesting.
You are doing the best song in the show. I don't know the whole score, but I'm assuming it's
yeah,
a great song.
It is the best song.
I mean,
it's
this
really
fascinating
great.
rhythm.
Fascinating rhythm.
I mean, have you ever done a number to Fascinating Rhythm before?
Never, and I've done a lot of Gershwin in my life, but never this one. This one is a very tricky rhythm. It's fascinating. And their father, who only spoke Yiddish, thought instead of Fascinating Rhythm, he thought the title of the song was Fashion on the River.
That works.
Fashion on the river, you got me on the go.
So, do you dance regularly?
Oh, well, yeah. I dance all the time.
Even when you do your show. I know you're always like doing your performing.
Yeah, I just came back from Palm Springs with the Palm Springs Symphony. I appeared with my show, which is called Taps, Tunes, and Tall Tales.
Right.
I can do it in the little Carlisle, or I can do it with a symphony orchestra. I did that for the first time, and so that was very exciting. And then I ran back here to start this, and then I go... Where do I go next? Florida. I'm popping all over.
Yeah, I kind of want to be a groupie on that tour because you go to all these really nice, you go to all these beautiful spots in Florida in the middle of the winter.
Sunny places, I try to book sunny
places. You planned it well. You're like, sure, I'll go to Florida, do some nights.
Sun.
It's so exciting for us to get to see you do a show like this, to see you in the middle of a big tap number on a New York stage. Is it exciting for you? Do you still...
Are you kidding?
Yeah?
This is what I do.
When they came
and I
to you...
haven't done a show with a big cast in a long time.
Yeah.
I've been working solo and with backup.
Right.
But this is a huge cast and wonderful dancers. We have a great choreographer, Randy Skinner. He's just wonderful. We used to dance in chorus together, so this is a reunion for us. And it's the first time in 30 years that I'm not doing my choreography. I'm learning his choreography, which is great, but not mine.
Do you take direction well, Mr.
Oh,
Tommy?
yes. Listen, I know how hard it is to direct firsthand, so I'm a director's dream. I love to be told what to do, because then I can just be free and do it. I don't have to worry about everybody else. Just do what they tell you to do and make it work.
Right. So, how's life? How's life?
Life goes on. It's pretty good. I caught a cold in the big snow. We finished rehearsal at 6 o'clock and there were no cabs, and I had to walk all the way to the east side. So I got a little cold, but it's on its way out. Other than that, life is good.
Are you still a full-time New Yorker?
Oh, yeah. Oh, I love New York.
You can never imagine leaving New York.
This is my 55th year in show business, and I started counting for when I arrived in New York.
Wow.
Yeah,
And
it went by so fast.
And you grew up in Texas. We all know this.
Yeah.
So you never dreamt of doing like a Betty Buckley move and going back to Texas. Betty Buckley went back to Texas.
Well,
you know?
I go back to Texas all the time.
Yeah.
They have the Tommy Tune Awards,
Right.
the High
Yeah, yeah.
School Musical Awards in Houston. And they run them just like the Tonys every year, just like the Tonys. That's their format. And the first year we did, I think we're in our 15th year. The first year we did it, there were 12 schools that entered. This year, there were 42 schools.
Wow.
42 high schools in Houston and greater Houston area
Wow.
did musicals competing. I mean, that's just great. And the spirit of them are just wonderful. So, and I try to make it every year.
There's something so exciting about watching. I love going to high school musicals, about watching, you know what I mean, watching non-professionals do this.
Well, they do it from here.
Right.
They do
Yeah.
it because they love it.
Yeah.
No pay.
Right.
And that's,
Right.
you know, that's it. You got to
Yeah.
have the heart. You got to have heart.
So you moved to New York when you were what, in your early 20s?
I got out of, I'm not sure with the numbers. I graduated from University of Texas.
Right.
And then I entered the University of Houston to start my master's. And then my friend Philip Osterman, who's from Texas, who had actually been in New York and had an apartment once in New York, said, "You have to stop this. You've had enough schooling. Now it's time for you to go to New York." So he threw me in the back of his Ford Fairlane and drove me up here, pushed me
Ford
out.
Fairlane.
I arrived on.
That's a visual.
I arrived on St. Patrick's Day, and I don't remember exactly the year. It might have been '60. I'm not quite sure.
Okay.
And he said, "Now go over to that newsstand and buy a Variety, a Show Business, and one other Backstage."
Backstage, yeah.
And I opened the Show Business one, and it said that there was an audition that very day for boy dancers who sing. So I went, and I got the job.
But that's actually true.
And it's actually
crazy.
true, and it was St. Patrick's Day. Did I tell you that? So
that was your
I'm not
Broadway
Irish,
debut.
but that's
Broadway
yeah.
debut?
It was a replacement in a show called Irma La Douce, and then it went on tour.
Wow.
So I played I think it was about a week on Broadway, and then we went on tour, and it was wonderful. And I love, because of that first job, I have continued to love touring.
Yeah.
A lot of people think that
Yeah.
that's secondary, but it isn't.
Right.
You take the show to people that don't get to see it. Well, it was the fodder for me growing up.
Mm-hmm.
When a show would come to town, we would just live on it. So, you know, I felt like, oh, I'm giving back.
Right. What was your first New York apartment like?
Oh, it was in Hell's Kitchen, 51st Street, Coldwater Flat, 6th floor walk up,
Wow.
$55 a month.
Wow. See that? See that?
Because before I left Houston, I asked my dad, how much money would it take me, would I need to make per week to be okay
Right.
up there? And he said, well, Bubba, if you could figure out so you could make $100 a week, you would be in high cotton. Well, the first day in New York, I get the job, I go to sign my contract, and the minimum, equity minimum, was $90 a week.
Oh.
So I called my dad, which was a shock because we didn't make phone calls long distance. Somebody died if you made a long distance call.
Right.
That's the only reason you
Right.
did. And I said, everything's okay. I just want to tell you, I'm almost in high cotton. I'm getting $90 a week. So
Medium to high cotton.
yeah, I'm almost there. And so that meant $55 a month for my apartment. It was gold.
Living it up.
I was living it up. Yeah.
No, and also a 6'4" walk up for you. You must do double steps with those legs.
But of course.
So that's nothing.
That's actually easier for me. Double steps are easier.
Yeah. So you can handle. That's right.
It's
right.
kind of to scale.
You are a tall, lean man. You're legendary. I mean, you're legendary for your stature. And what I wonder is, when you started working in the chorus.
I got jobs because of it, and I lost jobs because of it.
So it all depends.
But looking back, my dream, and this, I'm not making this up, my dream was to dance in the chorus of a Broadway show because I knew I wasn't ready to play lead. I didn't know enough.
Right.
So I thought if I could just get in the chorus of a show, that would be it for me. Well, I got in the chorus of this show called Irma La Douce, and then I really got in the chorus of a new Broadway show.
Right.
And I danced chorus in 4 Broadway shows.
Yeah.
And it was the time of my life. I love it. It was like I was not good at team sports, and I certainly hated basketball, which
Right.
everybody thought I'd be good at because I
Right,
didn't
right.
like the
Right.
costumes. I mean, but here I was. So dancing in a chorus of a Broadway show is like being on a team, and instead of a locker room, it's a dressing room.
Yeah.
Instead of cleats, you wear taps, and instead of uniforms, you wear costumes. But you're really all out there every night, and you have to win every night. You have to do it right and be together.
Yeah.
And I loved it. I
Yeah.
loved it. But I got picked out of the chorus and started getting little parts, and then
So you started getting what, little featured moments?
little sings, little things, little
Mm-hmm.
featured things, and then I was in a show called How Now Dow Jones.
Oh, yeah.
You've
Yeah.
heard of that one?
Of course, I know. I have that album.
And they were casting a talent scout from 20th Century Fox. Saw me in the show and came backstage and said, "I'm casting the movie of Hello Dolly, and I want you to come in and see me tomorrow."
Right.
And I went in, and Roger Edens was there. You know, he wrote da 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 for Singing in the Rain.
Yeah.
He great man, and he liked me, and they flew me out while I was still working on the show. They flew me to Hollywood and did a screen test for Hello Dolly, and I got the part. And then I was signed to a 7-year contract with 20th Century Fox. And so that show closed, and off I went to be in the movies. But I really don't like making movies. It's so boring.
Yeah.
See, in the theater, we're taught to never sit in our costumes. Once you put your costume on, you're on, so you don't walk on stage with wrinkles. Nothing looks worse
Right.
in nice
Okay.
clothes than to have wrinkles. So you don't put, well, they make you put on your costume at the beginning of the morning. You get there, you go into hair and makeup, and then you put on your costume. I say, listen, I'm in show business, and can I just get everything else on except my pants so
Right.
I can sit in my trailer? And you say, you need me, I'll be there in 2 shakes.
Right.
And they say, no. We say, come, you have to be ready. So I had to put on my whole costume, so I wouldn't sit in it, because that's my training. It would be like breaking a rule in
Wow.
church. And it's really hard
Wow.
all day long to stand around.
So you're just standing around.
Yeah, they had
literally standing
they had a
around.
thing called slant boards, but they were too short for
Oh
me.
my God.
So I didn't like making movies at all. I really didn't. Not only for that reason, but you know, I need an audience. I'm not good with the camera. I need to feel it. It comes from the audience, you know.
You're one of my favorites because you created some beautiful shows. I mean, Grand Hotel, I just have to get this out of my way. I don't know if I would be doing anything I'm doing involved with theater if I hadn't seen Grand Hotel.
Oh, thank
like,
you.
Like honestly, that was, you know, they talk about that experience of walking on air when you see something. I literally remember the sensation of walking out of Grand Hotel feeling like I was just elevated. It was, I'd never
I'm
seen anything
so
like
glad.
that.
That's
I didn't
the
know
reason
theater
we
could do that
do
to me.
it.
So
Oh,
that's all
thank
because of
you.
you. And
Thank you.
and I still
That
to this
one-
day.
That one worked.
That one worked, you said?
Yeah.
That one worked. I thought it worked beautifully.
Thank you.
So,
Thank you.
I've read that you are critical of some of your things. Like you have a hard time sort of watching
My
things.
problem is when I go back, like when a show is running and I've gotten it on and it's successful and it's playing and it's won awards, I go back and look at it, and still there are those scenes that I say to myself, surely, Tommy, you could have done better with that. So there's always room for improvement. And so it's agony for me to watch it because I see the bad stitches and I don't want to see anything but the fabric. But I can see where I've patched something. And, you know, the whole idea is that it just keep evolving and rolling, and it's seamless.
Did you always know, though, that you wanted to make shows? Like, I mean,
I think I always made shows because down home in Houston in the summers, the summers were so hot before air conditioning, and it was so boring. So I would get the neighborhood kids together, and we would put on what we called the patio review. Isn't it grand? And I did about 5 patio reviews, and I was naturally bossy, and I just whipped the kids into shape, and we really did these productions on our patio.
The Best Little Whorehouse was the first show you directed and choreographed, right?
Yes, I co-directed it and choreographed it with Pete Masterson, who was one of the writers.
Right.
We directed it together because he'd never done a musical, but he'd done plays, and he was one of the writers. And so we just worked together on it.
So how do and I know like you start like you being the assistant, and then you just it's sort of a process, right, to get up to that point.
I think Michael Bennett said the best way to learn how to do this is to start on the lowest rung, which is in the chorus,
right,
and climb up.
Yeah.
And he was kind of my mentor, even though he was younger than me. He was worldly.
Yeah.
He was from up here. I was from the sticks. But he recognized something in me, and he would keep using me in his shows. And I don't know, sometimes I would be frustrated because I would think, I know how to do that better. I would have them come on from stage left all in one group and then split up,
right,
you know, like that, instead of coming from all directions. I would start doing that. So,
right,
but that frustration, I think my creativity was born out of it.
Mm. You also did 9, the original 9.
9, yeah, that was
beautiful show.
That was a task.
Did that one work?
Because I was, yeah, it did. It did. It almost didn't happen though, because I had this. We were trying to cast 9,
yeah,
and there were a lot of wonderful women in New York at that time, but the character men, the grown men parts, these guys had left New York because they have wives and children. They'd gone to California to be on television,
right,
where they could make a living and have a
yeah,
home and bring up their kids. And I didn't see any interesting men to play these roles. And I was very worried about how I'm going to do it, because we were, you know, it's based on a Fellini film,
right,
and Fellini was my favorite. So I wanted to honor him, but not work like him because I'm in a different medium. So I got the idea of, wait, this leading character is a man, and he's crazy for women.
Right.
What if he just inhabits a world of women? That would be his dream. So I sort of made it Guido's dream, which became Guido's nightmare, and then it worked out all right. The creators thought that was a bad idea, to have all women and one man. So I said, well, that's the way I see it, and I understand if you don't like that. And so it's your material, so you take it, and I'll just relinquish it, and I wish you good fortune. So there were like 2 weeks when I wasn't on the project, and then they decided to give the kid a chance. I said, okay, well, you feel strongly about it. I went, yeah, I do. And of course, that's what made it not be the movie.
right,
When you make a show based on a movie, you cannot put the movie on stage.
right.
You have to find another language, because
Absolutely.
it's the theater and it's different. But yeah, in the movie you can show everything.
Right.
In
you
the
still see
theater,
it.
you have to entice the audience's imagination and
Right.
ask them to believe into something that is weird. There's an orchestra in the pit. There are people on stage talking louder than people really talk.
Right.
The lights go down. There's rumblings in the pit. The curtain goes up. They finish a number and everybody claps. What kind of world is this? This is the theater. You have to acknowledge that and then work within those rules. And then when it starts to get predictable, break them. Break the rules so it becomes something original. Original.
You always did very well at the Tony Awards, and your shows too. 9 beat Dreamgirls, very legendary, right? 9 beat Dreamgirls. That was a big Tony race. You know, some of these years were like.
Well, they do that in the press. It was.
Yeah.
They build it up, you know, for excitement.
Right.
It was embarrassing for me because Michael Bennett, who was my mentor,
Right.
he was a genius.
Yeah.
He was a genius, and Dreamgirls was a wonderful show.
Yeah.
But they voted for me.
Both shows were wonderful, and the Will Rogers Follies also won Best Music. I love the Will Rogers Follies too. I really miss Tommy Tune shows. I have to tell you, I love working on Broadway, but I miss Tommy Tune shows.
It's hard to get a Tommy Tune show on these days because, you know, I'm weird. I don't do it to be weird. I don't do it to be strange. I don't do it to be artistic.
Yeah.
I just only know how to do it the way I know how to do it. If I can figure it out, then I want to do it. And it seems that, you know, if I wanted to direct revivals of musicals,
Right.
I could be doing it. But
Right.
there's no excitement to that because I know how they come out.
Right. Right.
And
yeah.
then I either try to be totally authentic with the way it was done, or give it a new gloss, which is kind of insulting to the original, you know, the original composers and librettists. So I really like to do something that I haven't seen.
Yeah.
I like to bring the new things to Broadway, and that's
So they're still in your head?
There's not too much of that going on.
There's things in your head?
I have a few.
You have things in your head?
Yeah, but the Broadway world has changed during my 55 years. You must understand, life changes. There used to be singular producers, creative producers, David Merrick, Alexander Cohen, Pierre Cossette,
Yeah. Yeah.
a few more that I worked for and
Right.
that I had success. And so you didn't answer to a melange
Right.
of people's opinions
Yes.
because any creative artist is vulnerable. If they're not vulnerable or just confident, well, confidence is what is awarded people that, to cover up for lack of talent. There are people that are so strong and so confident.
Right.
But I think really true creative artists are insecure in a way till they can make it so they believe in it so it is secure. You have to go through that, and if you just come in wielding this and that and you go there and that's it and there's the show, bring it in, let's go. I don't think anybody has that with talent underneath it. I think it's the booby prize.
Based on how I felt when I walked out of Grand Hotel, I would write you a $10 million check and say, Tommy Tune, just make something. Do that again.
I bet I could do a show for less than $10 million because I don't like to waste people's money. I like to activate the imagination of the audience.
Yeah.
And get them, instead of back here in the chair blasting you, I want to pull them in so they're sitting like this. What's next? What's going to happen next?
Absolutely.
Of course, remember, when I started, there were no microphones. There were no microphones.
Right. So you literally
and
have to
now we have so much microphone that nobody has to really project. Because, and in fact, it's better if you don't sing too loud on a microphone.
Yeah.
It cracks up.
So, all right, forget the artistic. What was it like being in the Broadway scene in the 60s? Was it fun?
Oh my gosh, it was so lively because shows didn't come in, move into theaters, and stay for 10 years. A good run was 2 seasons.
Right.
A fantastic run was 3 seasons.
Right.
Once in a while, My Fair Lady would stay longer.
Right.
But then the theaters, you would do your show. It was a success if it ran. And then you would take it out on the road and leaving that theater vacant for the next show to come in.
Right.
Now there are shows waiting in line, like trying to get into a garage.
Right.
To wait for some show to fail so they can grab the theater. There was not that. It just was a healthy turnover.
Right.
So there was more productivity, more product, more people writing. And it was viable, and there wasn't so much television. Now writers that have the gift, and they're few and far between, they can make so much money work writing for television movies. And you don't get rich doing theater.
Yeah.
You do theater because it enriches you.
Yeah. But what about the social scene? Going out, did you hit the town?
Oh, I'm a monk. Because
Really?
if you're doing 8 shows a week,
Even back then?
Here's what I would do. I lived on the same floor. I lived on 55th Street. This is when I got a nicer apartment than the $55, but 55 keeps coming up. I lived on 55th Street next to City Center. And across the hall, Steve Rubell lived.
Okay.
So we were friends, so I could get in 54. So what I would do is I would finish my show. On walking home to 55th Street, I would stop by 54. I could get in every night. Oh, Tommy Tune, here. I would in. I would stay 15 to 20 to 30 minutes just to feel out, see who was there, get a look at Elizabeth Taylor, dance with Liza, like that. And then I would go home to bed because I'm a monk. Because you can't do 8 shows a week and party every night. It doesn't work. It doesn't work. You break down and you start getting sick, and then you miss, and I don't miss.
Okay, so we're not going to get any crazy partying stories from Tommy Tune tonight.
I don't think I have them.
Well, I did read your book, so I know all about you and Andy Warhol and those shenanigans.
Oh yeah.
Just Google it. Google it.
Oh yeah.
Your book was very revealing. You wrote it very just lay it all out.
Side. But the overriding thing was the work. I have to say, those things would happen when I was at Liberty between shows.
Right.
Then I would party, but not very hard.
Right.
The people that partied hard are dead.
I also love.
It's just true.
This is just random timing, but Joel Grey just came out of the closet.
Yes.
And it made me think. And I was thinking of you before you came in, and I thought, well, I've always known that Tommy Tune likes boys, and I guess women too. I mean,
Yeah,
you've used the term pansexual. I love that term.
Pansexual.
Why not?
Yeah,
Pansexual.
Why not?
And it's just you've always just seemed so comfortable with that. Or did people just not ask you? Did anyone ever ask you? When did someone actually say, like, are you gay? Are you into guys?
They
Or?
didn't ask me that because I think they knew the answer, and so that wouldn't be much of an event.
Right.
We were talking, like here, we're talking about the stuff of about the work.
Right. Yeah.
Because it's really not about who you take to bed at night.
Right.
Although, I guess that's interesting to people. I don't think so.
I just appreciate how relaxed you are about it. I don't know, it takes a...
I met Michael Bennett in an elevator, and he looked up at me and he said, "Well, who are you?" And I said, "My name is Tommy Tune. Do you think I should change it?" Because I was very worried, because it is my real name, but it sounds so phony. And
it's his real name.
And you can really make fun of it in many ways. I said, "My name is Tommy Tune. Do you think I should change it?" And he looked at me and he said, "Not if you want to go around being Tommy Tune." Well, who else should I go around being?
Right.
I can't invent somebody else.
Right.
I am who I am.
Right.
So I don't know. It was never the issue. Hollywood, different. Theater, New York, no.
Right.
Hollywood, I was told by, I cannot tell you who, somebody very famous, you have to be careful out here. If you want to have a career, you cannot let them know that you're anything but straight. And that's another reason I didn't like Hollywood. I couldn't take the pressure. It's so horrible trying to pass yourself off as something that you're not, when what you are is as made. I didn't choose it. I am.
Right.
And I'm not sure what I am. And that's okay too.
I love what you are.
Because you're constantly, I'm constantly striving to be better, to live a full life.
Yeah.
To be happy, whatever that is.
Yeah.
It's the quest. Some days are good and some days are bad, but the bad days make the good days all the better.
So what do you do when what do you do like at home? What's on your DVR? How do you kick back? What are you watching? What are you doing when you're not doing your show?
Yeah. Well, I love to cook.
Yeah.
So I like to have.
What are you really good at?
Oh, Texas food.
Oh.
I'm real
Invite
good.
me over. I love Texas food.
Yeah, Texas chili, chicken fried steak.
Oh, that's
all those
perfect.
basic things. But then I'm into Moroccan right now.
Oh.
I'm making Moroccan chicken tagine. I just did
so
that
you're
recently.
cooking.
Yeah, I like that. There's certain things that I like on television. There are so many choices on television.
Right.
And I like this show called Penny Dreadful.
Oh,
it's
yeah.
It's very
You like
interesting
that.
and
Okay.
unusual and very sexy.
Right.
I like sexy shows.
All your
And-
stuff is very sexy. You've done a lot of
and
sexy things.
Well, sensual. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think that's cool.
Yeah.
And beautiful, I hope. I like
Yeah.
beautiful photography,
Yeah.
things like that. But I also like watching wrestling matches. That's something my father took me to when I was little. So that's part of me. And I think the WWE, that's great. That's like opera, because there's high emotion and it's so dangerous what they're doing. And I tried to figure it out choreographically, how they know how to do it and not kill themselves. And it's really mysterious to me. I do not know how it's done, because they take a beating, but they can't be taking the beating, but they're taking a beating. I don't see them going like this. I see them going like that.
I would have never guessed you were sitting home watching wrestling.
I think, well, it's like opera. It's high emotion.
Wow.
Yeah.
Maybe that's the next musical, the wrestling musical.
Yeah,
I'll
I've
write the $10
thought
million
about
check
it.
for that
I've thought
one.
about it. I love fashion shows. I'm very into clothing. I love
Okay.
to see that. And, I couldn't buy anything to fit me, ever.
Right.
So now that I have at least enough money to clothe myself with pants that are long enough and jackets that fit, I love good clothes. What else do I love? I go to church. That
Yeah.
helps. That sustained me.
And you go to theater, that
Oh, well,
church
sure.
too.
Oh,
do you
sure. I
do you
try
sit
to
and
see
watch
as much as
shows?
possible.
Are you able to check out and watch shows, or are you thinking, well, that would have been better if they did that? And that would I can't imagine that you can't redirect shows while you're watching them.
When they're good, I don't do that.
And so
When they're not good, I start trying to fix it because that's a good exercise for me.
Right.
And sometimes I can figure it out, and sometimes I can't. I
know what's
couldn't figure out Sideshow. I knew something was wrong and that we weren't responding, but I couldn't figure it out.
Interesting.
And then I saw American
Freak
Horror
Show,
Story,
yeah.
Freak Show.
Yeah.
And then I realized, because they were able to do it in that medium, we didn't think about it being fake. We just went with it. And there were some real freaks mixed in with the camera tricks. And you can't do that in the theater. So
Right.
I couldn't figure it out.
Yeah.
But Freak Show I love. Jessica, I know Jessica, and she's
Jessica
just
Lange.
so wonderful in it. But the whole cast.
You love Jessica Lange, and I love Jessica Lange.
Okay.
Let's say I had $10 million. I wrote you a check. Jessica Lange was like, I'm dying to play Grzinskaya in Grand Hotel. But Tommy has to direct it. Can we remount it? Would that be interesting to you?
Get her in those toe shoes and talk to me later.
Yeah?
No, but that's a revival, see?
See,
and
but,
Paul,
but it's your own...
but
see, here's what breaks my heart.
But that doesn't thrill me. I'm glad you like it, and I am proud of that show. I have to say, I'm very proud of that show. I want to do something
brand new.
Yeah, I don't want to paint the same painting again.
Right.
That's what else I do in my off time. I paint. I have a studio, and I go down there. Sometimes I paint through the night.
Yeah, I love your art.
Thank you.
Yeah, it's beautiful.
Thank you. I love doing that. That keeps the creative flow going.
Yeah.
I try to, I think the whole idea is if you can figure out your life so you can live every moment is a creative moment, whether you're cooking an omelet in the morning or taking your dog for a walk and finding a new little place that he'll get a new smell, or getting dressed and putting on something that you like, and there you're honoring the people who are going to look at you. Everything is, if you can be in a constant state of creativity, I think that's the dream. That's when I'm happiest.
What's your dog's name?
Little Schubert, because I opened the Little Schubert Theater years ago.
Of course, yeah.
And he was my opening night present.
It's a total Broadway name, too.
Little Schubert. And I'm such good friends with the Nederlanders, and I brought him to Little Schubert to visit Jimmy Nederlander's little Yorkie, who was called Cupcake. We were trying to get them interested, but I think Little Schubert's gay. He wasn't interested in Cupcake, and Jimmy said, "And what's your doggy's name?" I said, "Jimmy Nederlander, I'm sorry to tell you this, but this little dog is called Little Schubert." And he said, "That's okay. He's the only living Schubert." Jimmy Nederlander is the guy. He is my godfather.
You're at home with the only living Schubert. I love that.
He's the only living Schubert.
Well, Tommy, I could literally talk to you for probably 8.5 hours.
This is just great.
But
You're
we're out
wonderful.
of time. You got to get back to your Encores gig.
I've got to go to my
You literally
Sitz
do. I can't wait. Lady, be good.
Lady, be good.
I love that. It's a lady, comma, be good. Like lady be good. Yeah, I mean, there's so many sassy ways to say it. I love it. February 4th through the 8th.
Yeah.
Some fascinating rhythm, some tap dancing, some Tommy Tune. I love it. I'm so excited. Thank you so much for being here. It really is an honor.
My pleasure.
Thank you for watching. We'll see you next time.